Welcome back, Flick Knaves, and thank you to Reese Toomray for Flick Knaves. I'm Lupinefiasco, this is Daily Fab Gameplay, and today we are reviewing the Cindra list that I put up a deck tech for last week. I told you in that video that the deck was very likely wrong. There's a reason that I named these things the way too early deck tech, and it does seem that I missed the mark quite a bit. After the TCG's Blue Pitch show match this last Friday, as well as input from George Roger in the UK and Dan Rutkowski here in the US, there does seem to be a general consensus that Mask of the Pouncing Lynx is the superior Cindra mask, and for good reason. Mask of Momentum will often draw you one or two cards throughout the game, but you have no idea what they will be. They are just a random card off the top of your deck. Mask of the Pouncing Lynx will always only draw you one card, but it is guaranteed to be the best card in your deck for the specific situation. So I've retooled the deck, and I will be reviewing it with you here. Before that, I do want to remind you that if you have not already done so, a YouTube subscription is the best free way to support me, and to make sure that you see every new episode of Daily Fab Gameplay in your video feed. I also have a Blue Sky, a Discord, and a Patreon, links to which can be found in the video description below. A Patreon subscription at the Arc Lightning tier or above will get you access to all of my matchup guides for all of my decks forever, and that includes this deck, which I have just made changes for. So let's get into the new revamped Cindra list. As you can see, there are quite a few changes that I have made to the deck. I believe there are 23 in total, so we could go through point by point, but just based on a third of the deck changing, it is probably better to go through card by card. Some of these are repeats. We won't need to review why every head jab is in this deck, but just based on my findings, my play experience over the last week, and what I've seen elsewhere, we can talk about the biggest changes to the list. As I said, Mask of the Pouncing Lynx is our primary and only headpiece at this point. It is just a very good card. If you've been playing Ninja, you know how good Mask of the Pouncing Lynx is. It will always find you the best card for whatever situation you're in, and usually that's Lava Burst. If you are putting maybe 3 Lynx on a chain and you just need to convert Pouncing Lynx into 5 damage, it could be Salt the Wound if you've had a big combat chain with many hits on it and you can get that salt to at least 6 power. Suddenly it becomes better than Lava Burst. What Cindra brings to the table that Phi does not is Blood Runs Deep, which we can talk about in just a bit, but Blood Runs Deep combined with Blood Splattered Vest will always generate 2 resources if your opponent doesn't have damage prevention. Based on your turn cycle, you can then activate Cindra, buy back both of your daggers, and use those 2 resources to attack with 2 daggers. Between 4 dagger attacks and Blood Runs Deep, that is 5 chain links, and if all 5 of those chain links hit, then suddenly your Salt the Wound attacks for a minimum of 7. So Pouncing Lynx being able to find your Salt the Wound, your Lava Burst, or your Blood Runs Deep is just a massive improvement over what Phi has available, and that is why we are running Mask of the Pouncing Lynx as our only headpiece. We're also playing Dragonscaler Flight Path. I had talked about how I think this card is worse Snapdragon Scalers. In a lot of cases it is. What Scalers brings to the table is the ability to rescue a bad hand. If you don't have a blue to pay for your kunais, and your hand is entirely dependent on you having 2 or more Draconic Chain Links to get go again, then Snapdragons bails you out. You play a Lava Vein Loyalty, you snap it, then your second Lava Vein Loyalty has go again because it sees 2 Draconic Chain Links. Dragonscaler Flight Path cannot bail you out of a turn without a starter, but what it can do is give your Compounding Anger go again, and that is a new finisher that we're playing in the list. I'll talk about it in just a bit. But with Compounding Anger essentially being Lava Burst 4 through 6, Dragonscaler Flight Path gives you the ability to go wider on a very big turn, and the fact that it blocks 1 is relevant. We're playing a lot of 3 blocks in this deck, so if you can cover something like a Leave No Witnesses or Mark of the Black Widow while you are marked, with a 3-block and Dragonscaler Flight Path that may let you keep more cards in hand to present more damage on the crackback. But as far as the rest of the loadout, we're still playing Double Kunai, we're still playing Flick Knives, we're still playing Blood Splattered Vest. I have been sort of impressed by Vest. It does enable some very large turns, but with the number of 0 costs we're playing in our deck, you very rarely get to benefit from additional resources except on your biggest turns. So that is something I'm looking into as I continue to iterate on this list, maybe getting some more 1 costs in the deck so that we aren't really relying on Blood Splattered to go very wide or to combo off, but more to fix bad hands, because a lot of the time your bad hands aren't missing resources, they're missing playable cards. Going down to the list itself, a lot of this is going to look familiar. Blaze Headlong, Blood Runs Deep, Rain with Cinderclaw, Burning Blade Dance are all more or less Cindra staples. Blood Runs Deep is one of our biggest combo enablers. What this does is let you trade your daggers for 2 points of damage and 2 resources, and that is very good on your Spreading Flames turns, on your Wrath of Retribution turns, just turns where you are intending to attack with daggers 2 to 4 times, and then break Pouncing Lynx to find Salt the Wound. Blood Runs Deep is just a really good way to push damage. It is effectively a 0 for 4, but split up between 2/1/1, which is much harder to block effectively. It is one of the best cards in our deck. New to the list is Compounding Anger. This is effectively Lava Burst, but it does let you burst off of a 2-card hand. So between Compounding Anger and a blue, you can attack with 2 kunai and then use your floating resource to attack with Compounding Anger. After that, you can Flick Knives to throw one of your daggers, and then based on having 3 Draconic Chain Links, you can rebuy that dagger with Cindra. So Compounding Anger actually really good, even off of a single blue. If you only have 1 dagger, you can still send a 2-card 6. You would not be able to rebuy your daggers unless you used Blood Splattered Vest to generate a resource, which is not even a bad use of the vest, especially when you're getting towards the end of the game and you just need to get your value out of it. We have Display Loyalty is one of the standout cards from the deck. It only blocks 2 rather than 3, but it does generate a fealty on attack, which is much better than marking on hit. We do play Hot on Their Heels, but Display Loyalty, just getting you a fealty, is very nice. What are we using fealties for? If you look through the list, we don't have anything like Devotion Never Dies or any of the Art of the Dragons, but what we do have are Snatch and Salt the Wound. Salt is a new addition based on playing Pouncing Lynx, and what that fealty is really for is to let you cheat the restriction of Oath of Loyalty. Nothing feels worse than starting a big combo turn with Oath of Loyalty and then being unable to finish because your Snatch and your Salt the Wound are not Draconic. So we're mostly keeping our fealties around for those. With multiple fealties, if you have something like a blue and a Snatch, you can kunai, break fealty, Snatch to make it Draconic so that you do not lose your second fealty. But for the most part, your fealties are here to cheat the restriction of Oath of Loyalty and make sure that at the end of a big oath chain, you can still throw out a Salt the Wound. Hot on Their Heels, I believe, was in the list previously. For the most part, this is just Lava Vein Loyalty with upside. It is a head jab that blocks 3, and that's why we like it. New to the list is Ignite. As we have gone down on blues, previously playing 22, when I adopted this list, it was playing 15 blues. I want to test playing 12 blues with Ignite, as opposed to 15 blues without Ignite. On its face, Ignite does more damage than a single blue. It also lets us attack with a dagger, so we Ignite. For 0, our next dagger costs 1 less to attack with. If that dagger hits, we can even generate a resource with Blood Splattered Vest, which would potentially let us attack with a second dagger. We also get to Ignite, then play Spreading Flames for free. There are just a few lines that are enabled by Ignite. It's not the strongest card in our deck. I'm mostly testing it to see if it is better than blues number 13, 14, and 15. I think it might be, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ignite ends up just getting cut for a 3-block blue. Speaking of 3 blocks, we are playing Lava Vein Loyalty, just the base Lava Vein Loyalty, like hot on their heels. It is a head jab that blocks 3, and for the most part, that is good enough. Rising Resentment, back in the list. It's a Draconic starter. It is the second best starter after Brand with Cinderclaw. This could really be a lot of things, but just the fact that we are on so few blues now, sometimes you do just need a Draconic starter to let you play your Lava Vein Loyalty and its variants, and that's what Rising Resentment does. In the same way that Ignite is a better blue for starting your turn, so is Rising Resentment. Still playing Sink Below. I am just generally impressed by this card. The fact that we aren't drawing very often means that our big go-off turn is very unlikely to get bricked by drawing a Salt Wound. Without Art of War in the deck, there's no reason not to be playing defense reactions, which are 0 for 4s, that do not use your action point. Sink Below here can let you turn an extra blue into a red, or let you try to turn a red into a blue. And with the prevalence of Assassin in the meta, we really do want defense reactions, and I might even want to start going higher on those. Snatch, just a staple in any aggro deck, in my opinion. Spreading Flames has kind of gone down in value. We saw Blue Pitch bring a Phi deck to the Trading Card Guys show match that did not have Spreading Flames in it. That deck did have a lot more 1-costs and was playing non-draconic 1-costs, such as Devotion Never Dies. So looking to put big turns together where Spreading Flames really just wouldn't get more than maybe an extra point of value. But with Cindra, we still really value this card because of our Draconic Daggers. Being able to pitch a blue, play Spreading Flames, and then attack with 2 daggers for 2 points each is just a 2-card 7. We can even flick one of those daggers and then rebuy it to turn it into a 2-card 8. Spreading Flames pairs very well with Wrath of Retribution, as you get to pitch a blue, play Spreading Flames, then play Wrath with the 2 floating resources, and attack with 2 daggers for 3 points each. We're never not playing Spreading Flames in this list because of the daggers. I talked about Salt Wound just being a new addition to the deck. Because we are playing Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, we want to have multiple targets available for tutoring. Lava Burst is always good, but sometimes we do put these big Spreading Flames, Dagger, Dagger, Blood Runs Deep, Vest, Dagger, Dagger turns together, and yeah, we could break Pouncing Lynx for Lava Burst for 5, or we could break it for Salt Wound for 9. On its face, it blocks 3, it pitches for 2 daggers. There really is no reason not to play Salt the Wound, and so we are putting it in the deck. Finally, we have gone down on blues. We kept Lava Vein Loyalty, Conceal Blade, and Throw Dagger from the previous list. We did cut chaff like Cinderskin Devotion, Prowess of Agility, cards that are okay. Devotion probably comes back in as the replacement for Ignite if Ignite ends up not being good enough. But we are keeping just the most important blues, and that includes new addition this round on me. Daggers are everywhere. Fang, Cindra, both Arachnes, Ira are all affected by this round on me. The removal of Zephyr Needle means that Ira is bringing Kodachis into every matchup. Cindra definitely bringing Kunai into every matchup. So this round on me has a lot of potential to really mess up what your opponent is trying to do. If we're looking at Cindra, she has very few ways to actually do anything with her daggers besides just flicking them. If we're looking at something like Arachne, Arachne is also able to flick the claves in order to mark you, but if we're then looking at Arachne Marionette, attacks with something like Mark of the Black Widow, flicks a dagger, marks you. Now the Black Widow is still only attacking for 3 because it was originally attacking for 2. So you are able to cover that Black Widow attack with just a single 3 block, which is really nice. It's really nice to not need to block for 4. Your opponent very likely to still have the reaction, but you're making them do it, as opposed to needing to put 6 block in front of a single stealth attack and then have them buff it over the top. We just put that onus on them to hit us rather than them putting the onus on us to block them. So I think this round's on me could be very good. The fact that Cindra's daggers do not have the Kodachi restriction means that we do get to play this rounds on me, and in fact we are really the only ninja who can effectively play this rounds on me. So I'm testing it out. As far as the inventory goes, much of this is the same. We did cut Enlightened Strike. I don't feel like we need 6 2-card plays. Choosing instead to stick with Command and Conquer, which we would board in for Assassins, Guardians if they still exist, Riptide perhaps, just heroes where we are really relying on 2-card hands, where we cannot reliably keep 4 or 5 cards in order to send a massive turn. We are just trying to fight for tempo while we find that space to put a big Spreading Flames, Wrath, Blood Runs Deep turn together. Shelter from the Storm does stay in. This is, in my opinion, not better than Sink Below. As far as the defense reactions go, I believe it is always going to be your class defense reactions are better than Sink Below, is better than Shelter from the Storm, is better than That All You Got. So that's why we are not playing this in the main board, but we are boarding it in for Viserai, Assassins, potentially Ninja. I would also want to consider Loyalty Beyond the Grave. I've had it played against me a few times, and while it just blocking for 3 and a red is, okay, it's never great. The fact that it draws a card later in the game can bail Cindra out of having to keep 1 or even no cards, and in these tight game spaces where both heroes are under 5 life, Cindra being able to turn a 1-card hand into a 2-card hand could be the difference between sending 3 damage and sending 8 damage. If Cindra has a blue and draws into that compounding anger, suddenly she's looking at a 2-card 8 compared to a 2-card 3. So I do think Loyalty Beyond the Grave is worth playing with, but not better than Shelter from the Storm, and certainly not better than Sink Below. We have a 1 of Tenacity in the sideboard now. This is just for your Pouncing Lynx, and we're only bringing this in for the matchups where we know we're going to get blocked out quite a bit. So Guardian, potentially Warrior, potentially Runeblade. If you can put your Viserai on playing the Bagelman mid-range list where they are playing a lot of defense reactions and might just be defensive while they look to establish Malefic Incantations or find Mordred Tide, then Tenacity could very likely be better than Salt to Wound. But we are only playing 1 because we still want Salt available for those matchups. If you happen to catch your defensive deck wanting to put a big, Golden Sun Pummel turn together, or if this is the 5-card Mordred Tide, double Malefic Viserai turn, and they're trying to throw a 9th blade, you want Salt to Wound and not just Tenacity. And as far as the rest of the inventory, this is all the same. Everything in here has been in here for better or for worse. We may look to get something like Tunic out of the inventory. I've played this against Enigma and thought that it was fine, but if Enigma lists are trending more aggressive and playing fewer ward cards, then we are probably going to get more value out of our vest, as the game won't last long enough for us to get 3 Tunic activations. Real quick, Warmongers is in the inventory now. This is just a concession to how bad it is to have a Warmonger's Diplomacy in your hand when you really don't want one. There are very few matchups where we're bringing Warmongers. It's really just Viserai and Azalea. I think Fangs are trending away from playing non-attack actions in the list, so there are only a few applications of Warmongers, which is why we don't want it in the main. The fact that we aren't playing Mask of Momentum makes it pretty easy to avoid having that Warmonger's Diplomacy to put into your arsenal, but it feels absolutely atrocious as Ninja to throw a Snatch against something like Arachne and then draw that Warmongers and have to either skip your arsenal or it just lives there now and you will never get value out of it. So we're boarding out Warmongers when we can. I'm honestly even considering cutting it from the list entirely. Just the fact that there are only 2 heroes that it's really effective against, and even Viserai, 3/4 of the time you play it against them, they say peace, and just use Grasp, play 2 Malefics, and pass. And you're like, cool, I'm really glad that I'm playing this bad blue, and then I paid $300 for it. As far as the Maybeboard, we have a few inclusions to talk about. I mentioned Loyalty Beyond the Grave. I think this could be good enough and maybe just replaces Lava Vein Loyalty. as a way to play a little more defensive in the early game, and then when we find space to keep a larger hand or even get into those sub 5 health life totals, and we need to find a second card to really threaten lethal, loyalty can just convert into drawing that card, so getting those 4.5 points of value. Mark with Magma and Demonstrate Devotion right above it are the 1 costs that I'm considering playing over Lava Vein Loyalty. Mark with Magma blocks for 3 and marks on hit. Demonstrate Devotion blocks for 2 but makes a fealty on attack. And these are just those situations where we end up with floating resources after we do something like Dagger, Head Jab, rebuy with Cindra for free. We have a floating resource, and maybe if we can get an extra point out of our 1 cost compared to a 0 cost 3 power attack, that could be good enough. It also gives us reasons to use our Vest beyond just comboing off with Blood Runs Deep. I still think Devotion Never Dies is a trap. I know that Blue Pitch is trying to use it in Fi. In Cindra, I think it is just too restrictive. It's a 1 cost, it isn't draconic. You really need fealty to get the most out of it, and Arachne isn't going to give you space. Your Enigmas and Viscerais are going to block it. Even your opposing ninjas will give you 2 cards to stop Devotion Never Dies. I just don't think it is good enough. But I could be wrong. I would like to be proven wrong about Devotion Never Dies, but I'm not playing it for now. Cinderskin Devotion and Rowdy Locals are just the blues that we are not playing, that we could play if we wanted to cut Ignite, or if you were playing Mask of Momentum and you wanted to go up to 18 blues, these are the 2 that I would consider. Quick Dodge Flexors, I think still has potential, but for now I have removed it. I could see it being the pick over Fandal Spring Tunic in order to better combat enemy ninjas. I don't think it's going to be good enough into Assassin, but against your non-Assassin aggro decks, I could see you getting value out of Flexors and an extra blue in hand, just blocking for 6. Scalers is here because there really is no reason to play Flight Path and Scalers in the same deck. I feel like it's one or the other, and I'm playing Flight Path for now because of how it works with Compounding Anger and the fact that it blocks 1 against Assassin. You've got Engulfing Flame Wave. I still want to believe in this card, but I don't think it's good enough, especially because we are playing blues like Conceal Blade, This Round's on Me, and Throw Dagger, which I think are better than playing stuff like Rowdy Locals, Cinderskin Devotion, really the blue 2-power attacks that we would need to put in our deck to make sure that we're getting our value out of Flame Wave. Flame Wave is good, and if we can pitch a blue Dagger Flame Wave and know that we get to play anything in our deck, that is strong. And maybe that is what we need to be doing in order to beat Assassin, but we do need to shift our blue base in order to accommodate Flame Wave to make sure that we don't just brick on a Throw Dagger or a This Round's on Me off the top of our deck. I talked about Enlightened Strike. Between it and Command and Conquer, we only need 1 2-card play, and I think Command and Conquer is going to be a better one than Enlightened Strike. The problem with E-Strike in Cindra is that Cindra doesn't have a way to cheat value out of E-Strike. E-Strike is always going to be 2-card, 5, draw a card, 2-card, 7, 2-card, 5 with Go Again. We don't get to play like Aurora, where we can E-Strike for 5, draw a card, and give E-Strike Go Again with Embodiment of Lightning, turning it into a 1-card 5. We don't get to play like Fi, where we can pick up a Phoenix Flame from our graveyard and E-Strike for a 2-card 7 that was really a 1-card 7 because we got the Phoenix Flame for free. Cindra is always playing E-Strike for its printed value, and a lot of the time we value it for the flexibility, but it isn't helping us close out games compared to a Command and Conquer that actually threatens a relevant on-hit. And finally, Grow Claws is a card that is just good value. It is 1 for 5 Go Again a lot of the time. It blocks for 2, which isn't good. It isn't Draconic, which I don't like. It doesn't work into a play pattern of pitch a blue for Dagger, Grow Claws, Flick, because while that is a 2-card 8, we don't get to rebuy our Kunai, and that is a serious problem. I had this card in the list for Enigma specifically because we wanted something that we could board Sink Below out for, but against Enigma, we're just happy to board it out for Command and Conquer. Or if we really needed to, we could just play the Sink and have it be effective. If we end up playing something like Loyalty Beyond the Grave in the main board and swap out Lava Vein Loyalty, we just keep sinking the list, and like it's fine. It'll do well enough. So that's why Grow Claws is in the Maybeboard and not in the list. But overall, that is why I have changed the Cindra deck in the way that I have. The biggest difference being that Mask of the Pouncing Lynx is what we have built around. If you want just a quick summary of why Pouncing Lynx is so much better than Momentum, imagine that you are starting every game with no headpiece, but your opponent is starting with 34 life, and that should be a pretty quick and easy descriptor of why Pouncing Lynx is so good. So I hope you have enjoyed my pontificating about this deck. I've been having good success with it. Assassin is our hardest matchup because either Arachne is pumping out ninja numbers of value but also stripping our hand, and Cindra just doesn't bring good armor to the party. She never wants to block with Pouncing Lynx. She never wants to block with Flick Knife. She never wants to block with Blood Splattered Vest. Flight Path gets us 1 point of block 1 time. So as soon as the Arachne is throwing Mark of the Black Widow with 2 Claves on board and Flick Knives available, you have to commit 2 cards to stopping that mark, and that doesn't even count the fact that the Arachne has reactions, or that Slip Through the Cracks has another action point because the Black Widow had Go Again. So they are tough matchups, and the answer is very likely bringing in more defense reactions. Loyalty Beyond the Grave helps us put a 5-card hand together even after Arachne doesn't let us keep one. And if we can play something like Shelter from the Storm in the main, that helps us get around the Claves generating mark. Against Arachne Marionette, it can cover the extra point of damage from the hero power turning a 3-power stealth attack into a 4-power breakpoint. There are little things like that we're going to have to fine-tune, but for the most part, outside of Assassin, I've had really good success with Cindra, and you can expect to see some of those gameplay reviews later this week. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you appreciate this new style of deck. I hope you like this. Go out, test it, let me know in the comments how you're doing with it, what changes you would make. Is 12 blues too few? Is it too many even? How do you like Ignite? Do you think I'm missing anything? Are you really getting value out of your Devotion Never Dies and you feel like it is something that I'm sleeping on? I want to know all of it because I want to fine-tune this deck for Road to Nationals and get over the Assassin menace that is currently, in my opinion, holding back Ninja. So, like, comment, subscribe. I have a Blue Sky, a Discord, and a Patreon. Those are all in the video description below, as well as a link to this list if you want to try it for yourself. I will be back later this week with more Cindra gameplay reviews. Until the next time I see you on Daily Fab Gameplay, take care.